Professor D. Balaganapati. Sir is presently heading the Department of Philosophy at University of Delhi, New Delhi, and he has more than 2 decades of teaching experience. His research interests are in the areas of Indian philosophy, philosophy of religion, social and political philosophy. Professor is a certified philosophical counselor by American Philosophy Practitioners Association, New York. Sir has several publications to his credit and is also a chief editor for many national and international journals. Some of his publications include Philosophical Doctrines of Andhakas, exploring early Buddhist sects of Andhra, Revisiting Dana, a response to Eurocentric approach, and so on. He is presently working on a project titled Yoga Consciousness in Mahabharata, the ethical value for societal and political well-being. He has completed a major funding research project from ICSSR, that is Culture Through the Labyrinth of Globalization, a study of popular imaginations and alternative narratives of digital and non-digital Telugu literature. He is serving as a regional coordinator, India, of Council for Ethics and Values, Ramanujan College, New Delhi. He is a Chancellor nominee for the Board of Management of Mohanlal Sukhadia University, Udaipur. He was the chairman of the governing body of Maitreyi College, New Delhi. He is a member of the governing body of Bhagini Nivedita College, New Delhi for the year 2021. He was a member of the review committee of Indian Council of Philosophical Research constituted by MHRD, Government of India. We welcome you, sir, to talk about today's theme, that is imparting value education. When a person is at the crossroads, the inherent values should actually dictate the right path. Who instills these values? Obvious answer is a teacher, who plays a very vital role. And how he or she can do this and what difference the values can make to the society is what Professor D. Balaganapati would enlighten us about today. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Namaste. Thank you, Kartika, for that kind introduction. I hope I am audible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah, thank you. Gurave Sarva Lokanam, Bhishaje Bhavaroginam, Nidhaye Sarva Vidyanam, Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. My salutations to the first noted guru in Indian tradition. The chief guest of today's function, distinguished jurist, Justice L. Narasimha Reddy Garu, keynote speaker of today's inaugural session, Professor V. Usha Kiran Garu, Principal of the college, Dr. J. Nageshwar Rao Garu, Mrs. Umadevi Garu, and Mrs. D. Lakshmi Kartika, convener of the event, and other distinguished and esteemed co-speakers of the FDP who have also joined us today, and the dear participants, organizing team, and other distinguished invitees. Let me at the outset express my sincere gratitude and appreciations to Lakshmi Kartika for inviting me for this FDP. I'm here only because of her. She has continuously kept in touch and then persuaded to join this event. On this special occasion of Raksha Bandhan, I wish her all the very best and for her future endeavors. Having said that, we understand that this is an FDP, Faculty Development Program, and I assume I'm so happy. Yeah, there is some disturbance somewhere. I request all the participants to mute their mics. Yeah, this is an FDP, Faculty Development Program, and we assume that all of us are teachers So I don't have to, I know that I don't have to teach you anything, and all of us know very well what we have been doing all these years. But there is a time, there would be a time where we have to wait, stop, and relook at our own work that we have been doing. So that's what necessitates a kind of refreshment and reorientation towards our own values and knowledge. This is what occasions such kind of faculty development program. I'm so happy that the theme of the program is very well chosen by the organizers, and my special appreciations to the people who have chosen this theme, role of a teacher in nation building. The theme that is given to me, the sub-theme that is given to me is imparting value education. Let me begin, okay? In order to get into whatever theme, sub-theme that is given to me, let me begin by reflecting on the general theme of the FDP, Faculty Development Program. It says, the role of a teacher in nation building. Why should a teacher worry or bother about nation building at all? Right? That's not teacher's job. In fact, that is the job of the politicians who have to make laws and who have been making laws. And it is the job of the bureaucrats who have been trying to make these laws implemented across the country. And it is the job of the industrialists and entrepreneurs who have been contributing to the economy. And it is the job of the lawyers who have been fighting for the justice of the country. There are many people around us who have their own specific roles to play in nation building. So why should we bring it to the teacher and talk about teacher's role in nation building? Don't you think it is too much that you are asking from a teacher? But I have an answer, okay? It is the work of the politicians and the lawyers and then entrepreneurs, everybody, that is true. But who makes all these people? Who makes the politicians? Who makes the lawyers? Who makes the industrialists? It is the teacher who is at the base of the whole foundation on which the educational program happens, and out of which these politicians, industrialists, or lawyers that we are talking about come out. So that is where the role of the teacher is very crucial, and that is how the FDP stresses the importance once again of the role that the teacher has to play, right? We are in that way, in that particular sense, the teachers are both creators. If the outcome is negative, the destroyers of the nation builders, right? So we have our role in helping the nation builders to come out is very crucial. And if we do it in a positive way, then probably we would create nation builders. And if we do it in a negative way, or if we fail in our duty, then it would be a devastating effect with destroyers of the nation. So that's where the role of each one of us is so important and crucial. Okay, but don't you think it is too much of a burden on us, right? See, all of us as teachers, don't we think it is too much of a burden on each one of us, right? How do we bear this burden? Once you think that, yeah, whatever I'm going to do in the classroom is going to really create a world which would be probably harmful to all of us, that thought itself would really create a disturbance in our minds. And that reflection is very much required, right? Let me say a few things about teaching profession as such, okay? How different is teaching profession from other professions? There are many professions. Why should we give so much importance to teaching profession? Is it only because we are all teachers that we are trying to pat each other's back saying that, our profession is great? Or is there really something unique, that we have to clearly make note of? Okay, so let me say something about that before I get into value education. We have different professions, of course, and in all these different varied professions that we have, the person who is performing there has to be what he is at that particular point of time. For example, a doctor needs to be a doctor when he is treating a patient. But education or teaching is the only profession where the teacher should not remain as a teacher. He has to be a continuous learner, continuous student. So only then he would be able to perform well. So the difference you would glaringly understand between a teacher and a person and any other professional. Okay. So in other professions, you don't have to become what the other client that has come to you. But in teaching, you have to become a student so that you can reach out to the student. You have to become a learner, continuous lifelong learner, so that you can perform well in the classroom. That is how it is. Definitely a different one. If not, I'm not positing any hierarchy of professions. I'm only saying that it is a different one, which is to be recognized very well. Okay. Having said that, let me just say, let me just move forward and try to say something about the challenges that we face as teachers. Okay. I'm just trying to boost all our morale, no, so that we feel happy and we also feel encouraged to go further, because that's what FDPs are made for, okay, organized for. So what are the challenges that we face, which would be completely different kind than the people from other professions face? The first one is we deal with wide range of students with different IQs, which demand varied methodologies from us. Okay, in a classroom of 100 or 60 or 50 or 40, whatever it may be, probably as we understand now, each student is a unique one. And if each student is unique, each student's IQ and each student's understanding and depth would be different. I'm not putting them in a hierarchy, but I am putting them in varied platforms. So if that is the case, it is really difficult for each one of us as teachers going into the classroom and trying to help them to learn something, to get some knowledge from the lecture that we are giving. So this is a really challenging one that we have to face. See, in other professions, there would be one rule which you have to implement on everyone. Okay, unless you're trying to be partial to somebody. But for a teacher, it's not going to work out that way. You cannot go with one yardstick and say that, yeah, this is over.
Finish.
So that's the importance of the teacher. The second one is, as a teacher, I see some of the senior faculty members, teachers here around us. You would know it better than me in that sense. Teacher deals with a few generations of students. Okay, in a span of 20 to 30 or 30 to 40 years of teaching, a teacher deals with generations of students. Sometimes you may teach the father as well as the son in the same class, right?
Yes, yes.
So that means, see, that shows the responsibility that you have to bear. Each one of us have to bear, which means from father to son, if you're going to teach, how much upgradation of your knowledge is required, and how much patience that you require, and how much acquaintance with what is happening around us is required. That again, see, I'm not trying to build a burden on each one of us, but I'm saying each one of us unconsciously carry this burden with us. We have to realize that, and the society also has to realize that, right? So the second one is we deal with generations of students, and the third one is the kind of upgradation. See, knowledge, whatever we call knowledge, I really feel very bad about the computer science teachers, because every day something new comes out, some new theory comes out. They have to upgrade themselves every day, I'm telling you. Okay? So something might have already happened somewhere, and by the time it comes to us, it would be delayed and outdated, which means the upgradation, constant upgradation of knowledge is something that demands from each one of us. See, I said in the classroom, you have varied audience, varied students. And then even these students, intergenerational students that you would be dealing with. Along with these two, something that continuously happening elsewhere in the world is to be updated in your brain so that you can perform well in the classroom, which is again tells us that how much pressure that the teacher would be in performing well in the classroom. And the third one is, requirements of the system. System demands that it gives you certain syllabus. It asks you to, it demands from you that you should finish it within the time, and you should stick to the stipulations of the rules and regulations, etc. Blah blah blah, which is very difficult sometimes. But still, you're supposed to deal with above all the things that I've said, along with this necessities or requirements of the system. That this whole thing tells us that the teaching profession is very unique and very special, and also, if you realize, it is also a huge burden. Okay, but I don't want to make you feel that it is a burden. Okay, that's not my job to make you feel that it is a burden. But you have to understand that it is a unique one, and it requires special concentration on each one of us so that we would perform well and as the builders of the nation, right? That is the job that is given to us, and we have to perform well in that. Having said that, let me list out, let me enunciate one more very important aspect about teaching profession. Okay, how do you measure the success? Okay, how do you measure the success of a person who is in a profession? For instance, there is a doctor, and a doctor, he treats the patient well, and you measure the success of the doctor by the way he treats the patient, and if the patient by merely his performance, right? That's what you look at. You take a soldier, and you measure the success of the soldier by his own performance. Okay, so even with regard to a doctor or soldier or anybody you take up, the success of a person is measured on his own capacity and capability. But come back to a teacher. Teacher is never measured, okay, on the basis of his own performance. Teacher's success is measured on the basis of the success of his students, right? You know it better than me, right? They would ask you how much is the percentage of success of your student. Only on the basis of that, they would either reward you or whatever, right? So the success of a teacher is never seen or evaluated or recognized on the basis of your own performance. Rather, it is on the performance of your students, which means how tough it is, right? This is where I thought I would state three important things about the success of a teacher, which tells us about three different theories of ethics that we have in philosophy. Since I am a teacher of philosophy, I would always take you back to philosophy, and I enjoy doing that because most of the people think that philosophy is away from the individual human life, which is far away from truth. Okay, philosophy is with each one of us, and we have to. Only thing is we don't understand that. No, we often we hear if you know about Advaita Vedanta, it tells us that you are the God. Okay, you are the Brahman, but you don't realize it. In a similar way, philosophy is in each one of us, but we don't realize it. We would be blissfully happy to be ignorant of the philosophical propositions that we have within us. Anyway, let me not worry about that aspect as of now, because that requires a different kind of platform to speak. Okay, so let me say a few things about the success of a teacher. The success of a teacher, as I said above, depends on at least in three different contexts. Okay, success of a teacher, when his students perform well, only then the success of a teacher is measured, which means this relates to a theory called consequentialism in ethics. Okay, moral philosophy. Consequentialism. You try to evaluate the actions of the individual on the basis of the consequences of the action. Okay, so this is called utilitarianism or consequentialism. The second one is when the teacher performs his own duty very well. See, sometimes you don't think about the success of the student. You go with the view that this is my duty, let me perform my duty in the perfect, best possible way, in the best possible format. Okay, so you treat it to be your duty and then go there and try to perform it. Okay, this is what is stressed even in Bhagavad Gita when Krishna tells Arjuna that you perform your duty. Okay, don't worry about the consequences, who is going to be killed, who is going to be saved. Okay, perform your duty. So some of us also go to the class with the view that let me perform my duty. Okay, and I perform my duty to the best of my ability. Okay, this is called a deontological theory. Okay, a deontological theory where duty is for the sake of duty. Okay, you don't perform your duty for the sake of something else, for the sake of some rewards or something, but you perform your duty only for the sake of your duty. And this is a theory called deontology. And then there is another theory as well, where you always try to excel yourself. Okay, as a teacher, you think that, yeah, I have to excel myself, I have to improve myself, I have to excel myself. Okay, I have to become the best teacher. Okay, in this process we also work towards our own improvement, and this is what is called theory of virtue. Okay, you try to inculcate the virtues of a teacher, and this theory is called ethical theory of virtue, virtues theory, which was enunciated by Aristotle. Okay, so these are the three theories that we have in ethical philosophy. In fact, all these three theories we simultaneously practice. It is not that we would be concerned about only the outcome of the success of the students. It is not that we would go to the class only thinking that it is my duty for today. No, it is not that I am. You will go to the class with the view that no, today I'm trying to excel myself. We go to the class with all these three together. Okay, which means, again, I'm telling you, uh, you would be going with an amalgamation of ethical theories that we have in philosophy, that we talk about. Because when you talk about virtue, when you talk about values, it comes basically under the domain of ethics. That's where I thought I should introduce you to these three theories: utilitarianism, deontology, and virtue theory, which are very important and prominent in philosophy. Okay. So having said that, let me just move forward and try to explain, or try to get into, like, we have understood the importance of a teacher as of now. If the teacher plays such a key role in the process of education, we have understood that. If the teacher plays such a key role in the process of education, it is also required on our part to understand what do we mean by this education, right? What do we mean by this education? And I appreciate Narasimha Reddy Garu. Initially, he mentioned about certain theories or certain conceptions of what education is, which were stated by uh, uh, various stalwarts in the field of education before. So one of the ways of understanding education is we understand that it is a process of facilitating learning. Right? This is the simple way of understanding process of facilitating learning. But if you go little deeper, you would understand that it is an acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, and habits. So what happens in the process of education is the one who is the seeker, who is the student, would acquire the knowledge and skills, values, beliefs, and habits. And it is also manifestation of perfection in human beings, as stated by Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda says it is the manifestation of perfection in human beings. It is also understood by Mahatma Gandhi as the all-round development of body, spirit, and mind. Okay, so we have all these three components within the self, and it is an harmonious and all-round development of all these three. That's what is understood to be education by Mahatma Gandhi. It is something that makes our lives in harmony with whatever exists around us. Is the conception of Tagore. Okay, Tagore is basically, he says, you live with the nature and you make your life in harmony with what is around you, so that you educate yourself through living in the nature. Okay, that's what is the conception of Tagore, which is very important for us to know and understand in this context. And basically, now let me understand. Okay, let me say what is it that I am thinking as education. Okay, these are the various conceptions that are already existent. But what is it that I believe to be education. For me, it is a process of living through a continuous reconstruction of experiences. It is a process of living. Okay, each one of us go through this process of living through a continuous reconstruction of experiences. We construct and reconstruct our experiences, and that is how we go further. You have a look at your childhood, how you try to learn. Okay, every aspect, everything that gets accumulated to your knowledge domain tries to construct and reconstruct your experiences, and that is how your knowledge domain gets created. Okay, so that's how you also build yourself as an individual. So this is what this is how I understand the conception of education. If this is the case, what is the aim of education is something that is very interesting that I thought I should delve for a while briefly. Okay, see, for example, every individual is getting educated. Okay, so why are we educating our kids? Okay, students that we have. Number one, as most of us say, employability is more important. This is what we think, right? So if we take that to be the first, though it is not the primary, but to be the first one that comes to our mind, uh, I would articulate it in a different way. Okay, the aim of education is to enhance the person's abilities to be productive. Okay, and I just articulated it in the same way, employability. Okay, enhancing person's ability to be productive. Okay, to be productive to himself and to the society as well. Okay, so which means he should get a job and he should earn some money so that he can take care of his family. So the first one is more towards the individual, where productivity, ability, enhancement of the ability towards productivity is first. If you take the second one, okay, second one is very important to me, where we have to spend more time. Okay, the second aim of the education, integrated one. This is not separate one. This is an integrated one, but this is the most important one for me, at least. Second aim is responsible in playing his role as a see education. Aim of the education is to make the student responsible in playing his role as a member of the family. Okay, the first and foremost thing is to make him responsible in playing his role as a member of the family, and then member of the society, and then member of the state. Okay, the process of education, whether you are teaching science, or whether you are teaching computers, or whether you are teaching literature, or whether you are teaching political science or sociology, the end output that we are looking at is that he should be productive to himself, agreed, but he should be a responsible member of the family at the minor level, at the focused level, and then at a somehow broader level, a responsible member of a society and a responsible member of the state. Okay, this is the goal which is very important to each one of us when we are teaching the student. That is how classroom teaching is not everything in the process of education. Classroom teaching is only probably 30 to 40% of what we impact on the student, right? Outside the classroom, how you deal with them, and inside the classroom as well, outside the lecture, how you deal with them is very important in contributing to their enhancement of their character, right? So this aspect is very important. This is where I hope you remember that our keynote addressee, ma'am, she has mentioned about new education policy, okay, which talked about making responsible citizens. Okay, one of the points of new educational policy is to make the individuals responsible citizens. This is what she read out for us. The second important point, or last important point that she has mentioned, is to instill values and skill to become a global citizen. Okay, I have some reservations regarding this, but still, okay, it's stated in a good spirit. Okay, you have to instill values and skills so that he can become a global citizen. Okay, at least we are safe now when they, because it says only we have to make him a global citizen. Initially, they were always thinking that we have to make a person, individual, a part of a global workforce. That was too dangerous, right? Which means you're just taking him away from the nation where, see, because our concern is also nation building. If our concern is nation building, if you say we want to make him a part of workforce, global workforce, then you're completely disconnecting him from the place where he is born. Okay. When I say this, what do I mean by this is the term responsible. Okay. Responsibility. When would you be responsible? When would you be a responsible citizen? Responsibility, interestingly, requires nobility. What I mean by this is, you will try to be responsible if you know the other person. Okay, that's how responsibility can be very well inculcated within the family, because in the family, you know to whom you are responsible and what are your duties. Okay, and if you violate, then immediately it would be pointed out. So inculcation of responsibility is possible at the grassroots level. Grassroots level here is the family. Okay, so which means the reason is you know the other, okay, to whom you are responsible, and if you don't try to be responsible, the other also would do similar kind of thing, which immediately impacts you. Okay, so the knowability and also the proximity. These two are very important for an individual to inculcate responsibility. But yeah, what, see, when somebody is getting educated, it is not that he is getting educated with his money. Okay, though payment of fee is one of the concerns, but it is not that the individual is getting educated by just paying a money. The community is investing on him. Okay, in all the educational institutions, through the knowledge development, through the infrastructure development, through whatever other sorts of means that we have, the community invests in them. So that's why, see, people argue regarding these IITs, that every student in IIT, the state would be spending on him at least some lakhs of rupees. Okay, though the fee that they pay would be very less, but the investment of the state on them would be very huge. Which means the community invests in the process of educating so much on the student. Okay, so then after getting all the benefits from that, the student or the individual who is coming out of the institutions of the education also has responsibility, and this responsibility has to be performed. Okay, if you are looking for a global workforce, what is happening is you are completely disconnecting him from the context. Unless there is a context, nobody would feel responsible and responsible, because the knowability, as I said, knowability and the proximity are very important. And the knowledge as such that we are talking about is also rooted in the context. That is how, when we are talking about values, we are not, though it is, we have been talking about global values, we also talk about the values of the land as well, which are very important for each one of us to inculcate. Okay. So then after inculcating the values of the land, we try to move further. Okay, and then that's how we try to become or join the global value system. But our rootedness in the culture, rootedness in the tradition is very important to each one of us. So that's where I thought I should mention this very important aspect of responsibility on the part of the individual. Let me now move to the values that we are talking about. What are these values? Hmm? What are these values? Values are basically understood to be standards of behavior. See, in Bhagavad Gita, you would find this shloka where guna karma vibhagachaha. Okay, so how do you understand yourself? How do we understand an individual? On the basis of his gunas and also on the basis of his actions. Guna and karma. Guna is the one which inspires, okay, which creates a standard for the behavior, and karma is an outcome of the behavior. Okay, so guna and karma are very important in understanding the value structure. Okay, So values are basically standards of behavior, and if that in that particular sense, if you are looking and trying to understand what are human values, it is ideal behavior of human being by adapting noble principles and high standards. This is how we try to understand human values. Now, just have a look at the present world that is around us. Okay, I'll just take few minutes. Uh, uh, um, Kartika, you can stop me whenever you think I am exceeding my limit.
Sir,
Because
you can go on till 5:15, sir. You have 10 more
okay,
minutes. Yeah.
okay, thank you so much. Because as teachers, we tend to cross our limits most of the times.
No, so
Uh,
the session
Go on.
started late. So actually, we should apologize for that.
okay, okay, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have a look at the present world around us. Okay, and we see a kind of selfish individualism. I'm not saying individualism is wrong, but a kind of selfish individualism that is existent around us, which exclusively concerns about personal gains. Okay, not bothering about anybody else, exclusively concerned about the personal gains, with no consideration for the common good around us. Okay, because we see, if you try to be reflective, you understand that unless people around us are good or happy, you can never be happy. Okay, this a little reflection on each one of us will tell us. Okay, it is like coronavirus. Okay, unless everybody is safe, you will not be safe. If you want to be safe, you make sure that everybody else is also safe. Okay, it is exactly like coronavirus. Okay, so unless uh, there is goodness around you, you cannot be good. Unless there is happiness around you, you cannot be happy. Within the family, unless you contribute to the happiness of the family, you alone can never be happy. Okay, so that is a very simple thing. A little reflection on each one of us would tell us, but still we don't try to do that reflective activity. That's what creates the problem. And we all in the around the world that we see now, we see a kind of absence of duty consciousness. We do the duty only if it extra benefits us. Okay, we try to perform the duty only if it benefits us with extra things. Okay, so this is the unfortunate. This is what is corruption that we are talking about around us, and adapting double standards for personal benefit. And we most of the times we see around us a kind of double standards that we adapt for the self benefit, and also unfortunately we seek out of the turn advantages, and we have become immune to a kind of sensitivity that everyone requires. That's where we say we have to relearn to be human. We are human beings, of course, we don't deny that, but now time has come, we have to relearn to be human. Right, because we forgot what is humanity and what is being human. So that's where the role of the teacher is very important. And we see quantity of knowledge is increasing, but the quality of life is deteriorating. All kinds of human development we see around us, but life is becoming very cumbersome. And good number of institutions have grown. Okay, if you look at the number of institutions from 1940, good number of institutions have come, but less number of civilized and cultured people that you see around you. Good number of educated people are coming out of the institutions, but if you look at the behavioral labs around us, it's really disturbing. And degrees are available in plenty, but dignity of the individual is really going down. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
why is it so? Why is it that all these things are happening around us in the country? This is what makes us to understand that the importance of values in the society, in the country. So unless we reflect, we start reflecting on our value systems and try to inculcate those values among our younger ones, it would be very tough to look at the society to be an improved one than the present times. So now let me just map what are the values that we have. If you're looking at Indian tradition, what are the kinds of values that we have? that we have to take into consideration. For example, value is basically an ethical notion, okay, ethical principle, ethical notion. For example, if you look at Indian tradition, the ethical values which were prescribed to every individual in India, in the country, and around the world as well, that every individual as such are five: ahimsa, satyam, asteyam, aparigraha, brahmacharya. Okay, ahimsa is non-violence, satyam is speaking truth, and asteyam is detachment towards things. Okay, you have objects. You should possess objects, but you should have a certain kind of detachment. Your excessive attachment to your objects would create problems to you and others as well. And the other one is aparigraha, non-stealing. Okay, stay away from others' objects, others' belongings. And then celibacy, which is brahmacharya. These are the ethical values that our Indian tradition has prescribed for each one of us. And within this, if you look at the individual human life, it is not that we require this group of values alone. There are different kinds of values that have come up. Okay, the contemporary or recent or modern literature is so rich in mapping the values that it really gives us a lot of insights to know them and understand them so that we can inculcate them. Okay, for example, we have intellectual values, we have rational values, we have emotional values, we have social values as well. And then values are also understood in terms of religious and secular, individual and communitarian, empirical and spiritual. So the domain of values is so rich, so rich. Okay, so let me just say a few things about each one of these categories. Okay, for example, if it comes to intellectual values, wisdom and intelligence. And if you are looking at rational values, curiosity, argument, precision and perfection. And if you are looking at emotional values, patience, love, care, gratitude. And if you are looking at social values, Buddhism has contributed richly to this concept of social values, where it talks about Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upeksha. Okay, what we mean by Maitri is loving kindness. Maitri is not just friendship. Okay, Maitri, what they mean by Maitri is loving kindness, and Karuna is compassion. Of course, all of us know, and Mudita is something that is very important, which we have to really inculcate in each one of us. We have been hearing this that see, uh, if the other is good, we try to be jealous of them, right? But Mudita tells us that you have to rejoice the well-being of others. You should not be jealous of the well-being of others. You have to rejoice the well-being of others. You should be happy because the other is also happy. The concept that I was talking before as well. And upeksha is equanimity. See, when we look at these values that I have listed out just now, initially, because of the advent of the modern education system, which was imported from the West, okay, we thought rationality is very important, and rational virtues are the only virtues that are required for the individual to be a right kind of a citizen. Okay, so that is how we have given less importance to emotional domain and emotional virtue. And then later on, people said, no, no, it is not rational. It is the intellectual virtues which are very important. And then we were going with the flow, and we thought only intellectual virtues. That's how you would find rational IQ and intellectual quotient, etc. Right? So we had this fascination towards these concepts. And then people understood that it is not just rational or intellectual. What is very important is also emotional quotient. So then we looked at emotional virtues as well, and then try to inculcate them integrate them in the curriculum and also in the teaching learning program. But now we also understand that social virtues are more important than these, because they are the ones which help us, in fact, to move in the society. So social virtues have become very important. And in fact, I remember sea learning, right? A wonderful concept that was developed under Dalai Lama. It's called C-Learning, Social, Emotional, and Ethical Learning. Okay, so this is being adapted in various universities and various educational institutions, starting from school curriculum onwards, which is being working really well. So this is what is also required at our stage. But see, I talked about Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteya, and then Mudita, Karuna, and Upeksha, all these concepts, right? But how do you bring them to the contemporary life? Okay, how do you see teaching, telling them that this you have to speak truth, etc., etc. These are good, these are required. I'm not denying the importance of them, but how do you make the student go directly into them and realize the importance of them? That is very important on the part of the teacher. So that's where the role of the teacher as a nation builder or creator of a nation builder comes out strongly. So how do we do that? Okay, for that I did some thought experiment with myself and try to come out with certain points which would be helpful to each one of you as teachers. One is, instead of talking about this, see, these classical virtues and values are very important for each one of our lives. But if you try to explain them through the modern vocabulary, that would be more catchy to the student. Okay, so that's how I came out with a new concepts or new vocabulary which you can use. And this vocabulary is not far away from our everyday use. Okay, for example, instead of talking about truthfulness, etc., you start talking about accountability. Okay, accountability to your actions. You each one of us as individuals, we act in the world, and whatever you do, no, because there is a law, the theory of karma tells us that whatever you sow, so you reap. Okay, whatever seed that you implant, the same kind of tree comes out. Whatever action that you perform, the similar kind of result that comes back to you, right? If you do good karma, you will get good result of good karma. If you perform wrongly, then you will only attract bad result. You will not attract good result at all, right? Similarly, if you can teach them about accountability as a virtue, okay, then this gets connected to speaking truth and also not harming anybody. Okay, so that is how I see accountability as one of the important concepts. Accountability to one's actions. Whatever action that you perform, you understand that you are accountable to the outcomes of that action. If you can clearly explain this concept to individuals, students that you find in the classroom, then to some extent this would inculcate strong values in their mind, and this is one of the effective things that I thought I should mention. And also integrity. Why should one be why should one have integrity? If you can explain them, okay, that is really going to help us a lot in making the student a very responsible kind of one. Other important virtue that I would enunciate here is cooperation. Okay, cooperative effort. Unfortunately, we only teach them competition. Since we teach them, we stress them only competition and teach them only competition, what happens is failure becomes a big burden for them. Failure becomes a very big burden for them. So if you want to avoid such kind of a nonsensical situation, then what you're supposed to stress and what you're supposed to make the student inculcate within himself is cooperation. So if we miss this, then see, tomorrow after somebody commits suicide, then we start talking about all these values, and then we immediately forget about these values and we'll think that it's over. But unfortunately, we should not continue with such kind of attitude. Cooperation is very important. And there is a kind of dangerous trend that I see around me in the students. For example, in Delhi University, I am heading the Department of Philosophy here. And in philosophy, I'm telling you, philosophy, for MA program, we give admission to 340 students in the classroom. Okay, we have 340 students use class for philosophy. I'm talking about philosophy. You look at, you come to South India, I belong to Andhra. So you come to South India, philosophy is almost dead. Okay. Nobody comes forward to take philosophy there, but fortunately we have good number of students here. So what I see, which is a very dangerous trend, is for everything, whatever you give, whatever you talk about, people are critical. Okay, there is no kind of appreciation that you see among the individual, among the students. We have to teach them that you have to appreciate things that are given to you. Okay, because there are certain things that are each one of us are privileged in one way or the other. Okay, if you are healthy, that is a privilege these days in the modern life. Being healthy, being with all the parts of the body, these are also privileges. You don't understand that. And being able to come to the university is a privilege, because there are lakhs of people, crores of people who cannot afford to, who cannot join these institutions. So you should be appreciative of the things that are happening around you, and you should have the gratitude to the things that are happening to you. And if you don't inculcate this appreciative attitude, and also gratitude towards what is happening to you, then it is going to be a dangerous sign. No, so that's so I believe that there is a kind of critical attitude towards everything that is given, and also there is a kind of jealousy that is enhancing among the individuals to the maximum limit. So these two are to be addressed through appreciation, need for appreciation and expression of gratitude. These are very important values that we have to inculcate among the students. The last important point is discipline. Discipline, I don't mean get up at 6 o'clock, do this. I don't mean by that. Discipline, what I mean is control of the senses and mind. Because these days, what is happening is, we are we are longing towards instant gratification. No, see, there is no instant gratification. Unfortunately, this instant food culture that has come into this market has developed this instant gratification. Probably Maggie is the first one which has created this instant gratification with 2 minutes Maggie, right? But basically, I would say, my friends, instant gratification is always dangerous. What is required for the individual is to work, struggle, and reach. Okay, sometimes you don't have to struggle, but you would reach. There is only regular process that we have. We don't have shortcuts. Don't go by shortcuts. Okay, because shortcuts are like instant gratifications, which create a problem to each one of us. Now I understand that I have exhausted my time. I'll just take 5 more minutes to conclude what I'm trying to say here. Okay. So for this, what are the methodologies that we can follow? See, I listed out certain values that we have to inculcate among the kids in our classroom. And see, these values, it is not that only literature people have to inculcate. Whatever I have said, listed out now, okay, a science teacher, because her laboratory requires to be safeguarded, right? So science teacher can also inculcate the same kind of virtues, and any teacher, teachers of all disciplines across the disciplines have to teach these values that are required. What are the methodologies that we have? This is a very important question, because often we talk about values and we leave them there without telling the teachers how do you inculcate, how do you bring them to the bring them close to the student. Okay, that is the methodology which is very important. And when it comes to methodology, one of the very important aspects in Indian tradition is the narrative tradition. Okay, you have to keep narrating. Narrative tradition is very important, and that has played a very big role in transmission of values and virtues from Vedic times and epic times and Puranic times to the present time. That's how you still remember our great epics Mahabharata and Ramayana. How did you get them? Through narrative tradition. Okay, and I'm glad to know that the convener of this program, Kartika, is working on narrative tradition, and she mentioned that she published an article on that. I feel so happy that somebody is working in this regard, and I think that all the teachers, whoever is there or participating in this, have to take this narrative culture very seriously and you have to narrate. When you try to begin something, you have to narrate a story. You have to narrate good things to the students, because there is a lot of negativity that is happening around us in the society. The public sphere that you see is filled with a kind of negativity, which puts the kid in an ambivalent situation. He will not know what to do. No? It is you who has to anchor him, help him in anchoring, and then sticking to the value system. So the narrative tradition is very important, and rational inquiry that we have to teach them, and reflective learning. No, it's not just learning by rote learning is not going to help. It is the reflective learning which is very important, and most importantly, knowledge has to be self-discovery. Okay, it's not that you teach and he would learn or she would learn. No, it is always a self-discovery. Knowledge is self-discovery. That's why even in Indian tradition we hear the word Atma Vidya. No, knowledge, gaining knowledge is Atma Vidya. And even if you go to early Greek tradition, Socrates says, "Know thyself." You know yourself. That is how you begin your knowledge. Okay, acquisition of knowledge. So these are very important aspects, and all these values that I have mentioned, they have to be integrated, and they have to be kept in a holistic manner, and they have to be like placed in a harmony, so that the individual can grow. I'm not saying that only intellectual values are important or emotional values are important. I'm saying each one of them have a very important part to play in the individual's life, and that is where we have to be integrative in our understanding of these values, and that really helps us to go further. uh, I thought I would also say, how do you as a teacher, because as a teacher, unless you are virtuous, students will not listen to you. See, if the student knows that you always bluff, okay, he will never listen to you if you tell him to be truthful. So we all know that, no? Depending on our character, teachers, students respect us. We all know that. So if that is the case, what are the things that we have to do? What are the things that we really have to take into consideration while dealing with the students is very important. Um, I would just say, I know Kartika is looking at me, which means I should stop myself. But I'm tempted to complete it with a very interesting thing that I should not miss. I would ask each one of you, like, what is teaching for you? Okay, I understand that there are 4,500 teachers who have assembled here. This is probably the largest congregation of teachers that we have today. Right? So if that is the case on this auspicious day of Raksha Bandhan and Rakhi, etc. So what is teaching for you? Each one of you have a conception of teaching, right? Uh, is it imitation? Is it repetition? Okay. Do you think that teaching is a mere repetition? Because most of the people outside the teaching profession think that this guy, these teachers, they only repeat the syllabus that is there in the since last 40 years. You know, they just read out the notes, the same stuff they repeat. Right? Is it really a repetition, or is it that you imitate yourself or imitate your teacher, or is there any other model that we can think of? The other model that I have is a stage performance. Okay, somebody goes onto the stage. When you go to the classroom, you go to the stage and you try to perform. But even in this stage performance, what happens is the script is already written. It is a scripted one. Even the language is also scripted, and how you should move is also scripted. So it is not even a stage performance. Teaching, my dear friends, I want to stress this very importantly on this occasion. Teaching is a spontaneous, creative performance. You go to the class, you know that what you have to teach, you know what you have to teach, you know whom you are going to address, on the basis of whom you are going to address. Every time, even if you teach the same lesson, you try to be creative. You try to be spontaneous, because even if you know the language, I don't know what is the next word that I'm going to speak, right? See, I know that I'm going to speak English, that's fine, but I don't know what is the next word that I'm going to speak, because it automatically comes out. In the similar way, it is teaching has to be a complete performance with a lot of spontaneity and creativity, and only that kind of teaching can help the students to get involved and become one with the teaching process that is happening in the classroom. And I wish all of you that you should reach, all of us should reach that stage and try to inculcate proper values that are required to be inculcated among the kids. And we should move forward in this noble endeavor that we have of nation building. Thank you so much. I thank you all for your patience, and I once again thank the organizers, especially Mrs. Kartika, for this kind invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was an enlightening session. Thank you so much. We'll take the questions now.